Elijah kicked the door open and froze. A child, curled in the corner, blonde hair, terrified eyes, breadcrumbs on trembling fingers. His mail-order bride had brought a child into his house. Hidden, secret, for 3 days. "Please," Clara grabbed his arm. "They want to kill him." Elijah couldn't breathe, couldn't move. All he saw was Daniel, his Daniel, 4 years old, reaching from the ashes. They sent him a shy bride, but her first night's secret? It broke something inside him that had taken 10 years to bury. Before we begin, subscribe to my channel and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this tale travels. Now, let's start from the beginning. 3 days earlier. The train stopped. Elijah Crane stood on the platform like a man carved from stone. 6'3", shoulders wide as a doorframe. Wolf fur coat stained with 10 winters of survival. A scar ran from his temple to his jaw. Gift from a Blackfoot warrior who'd learned too late that Elijah didn't die easy. His hand rested near his Colt, not threatening, just ready. 6 months ago, he'd sent $50 to a matrimonial agency. His letter was 3 lines. "Send a woman who survives winter. Must work hard. No questions about my past." He expected a widow. Rough hands. Practical expectations. The passenger door opened. Elijah's jaw tightened. She was small, 5 feet maybe. Faded blue dress patched at the elbows. A bonnet hiding half her face. She clutched a heavy carpet bag against her chest like armor. When her boots hit the platform, she looked up. Elijah saw fear. Not nervousness. Terror. The kind he'd seen in men walking to the gallows. He stepped forward. The planks groaned. "You the Whitmore girl?" She flinched. Clara Whitmore." Elijah circled her, didn't hide his assessment. "Agency said you were sturdy." "I am. You look like you'd blow away before we hit the mountain." Clara lifted her chin. "I'm still standing." First spark of steel. Good. She'd need it. "Where's your trunk?" "Just this." She lifted the bag. Heavy. Too heavy for clothes. "That's everything?" "Yes." Elijah waited. She didn't explain. "Wagon's this way." He turned and walked. Didn't look back. His boots crunched frozen mud. Behind him, rapid footsteps, the drag of that bag she wouldn't release. He should send her back. Right now. This woman was running from something. The way she kept checking over her shoulder. Eyes darting to the tree line, expecting riders. Elijah knew the look of the hunted. He saw it every morning in his own mirror. But snow was falling. 3 feet by dawn. The train was already pulling away. No sending her back until spring. He climbed onto the wagon bench. Clara struggled to lift the bag into the back. "Give it here." "No!" Sharp. Too sharp. She froze, realizing. "I mean, please." "It's delicate." Elijah narrowed his eyes. "Suit yourself." She scrambled up beside him, bag on her lap, arms wrapped around it. He flicked the reins. 1 hour up the mountain, temperature dropping fast. "You're not from Philadelphia." Clara's hands tightened on the bag. "I am." "Your accent slips. You talk Carolina, maybe Virginia." Silence. "I moved around. My father was a minister." "Minister beat you?" "No." Too fast. Too defensive. "My past is mine, Mr. Crane. That was the agreement." "Agreement was a sturdy woman." Elijah glanced sideways. "I got a sparrow with broken wings. Clara stared straight ahead. Then I'll prove you wrong. The cabin appeared at dusk. Logs thick as a man's torso. Stone chimney. Built against a cliff. No approach from behind. Elijah had constructed it himself after burying everything he loved. Get inside. Fire's dying. Clara climbed down. Her boots hit ice. She went down hard, knees slamming frozen ground. No sound. No cry for help. She just scrambled up, checked the bag first, then limped toward the door. Elijah watched. Most women would have screamed. Clara didn't make a sound. This woman knew pain. She'd trained herself to hide it. Why? Inside, Clara had the fire roaring within minutes. She stood in the center of the room, still wearing her coat, that bag on the table. Take off your coat, Elijah said. I don't bite, unless you give me reason. She hesitated, trembling fingers on buttons. Underneath, a gray dress hanging loose, collarbone jutting, wrists thin as bird bones. Starving. This woman was starving. Stew's in the pot. Eat. I'm not hungry. Her stomach growled, loud enough to echo. Elijah poured himself whiskey. We don't lie in this house. Only rule. You eat or you don't work. You don't work, you don't stay. She rushed to the pot, ate like she hadn't seen food in days, because she probably hadn't. Elijah watched. Agency said you could cook. I can. Said you could mend. I can. Said you had no family, no attachments. Clara's spoon stopped. That's right. So nobody's looking for you. She set the bowl down, met his eyes. Why are you asking? Because a woman who eats like she's been running doesn't have no attachments. Elijah set down his glass. I've been hunted before. I know what it looks like. I'm seeing it right now. The fire crackled. Wind rattled shutters. Mr. Crane. Elijah. Elijah. She stood. I will work hard, keep your home, not bring trouble to your door. My past is mine, yours is yours. Isn't that enough? He studied her, desperation in her eyes, steel underneath. For now. He pointed left. Bedroom. Take it. I sleep in the loft. What about? We see the preacher next week. Make it official. Until then, you sleep alone. Door has a bolt. Use it. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Winter up here kills stronger people than you. He climbed to the loft and disappeared. Clara grabbed the bag, hurried to the bedroom, slid the bolt home. Elijah lay on his pallet, listening. Rustling fabric, creaking bed. Then, soft, rhythmic. A lullaby. Who sings lullabies to an empty room? His hand found the Colt under his pillow. Whatever Clara was hiding, it was about to explode. Day 1 of the blizzard. Snow piled against windows. Wind screamed through every crack. Clara cooked, cleaned with manic energy. But every spare moment, locked in that bedroom. And food started disappearing. Quarter loaf of bread, gone. Elijah said nothing. Watched. Day 2. Half a jar of milk. Missing. Dried apple slices. Gone. Still nothing. Day 3. He heard her whispering. Coming down the ladder, he caught her kneeling by the bedroom door, speaking through the gap. It's all right. Mama's here. Just stay quiet. Please, baby, stay quiet. Elijah froze. Baby. The floor creaked. Clara spun, face white. Elijah, I was praying. You pray to someone called baby? It's a him. Enough. He came down hard, boots thundering. 3 days. You've stolen food, whispered through that door. I figured you'd come clean. He moved toward her. She backed into the wall. What's in that room? Nothing. Don't. His voice dropped. Dangerous. Don't lie. Not after I gave you shelter. Please, Elijah. What's in the room? Tears filled her eyes. I can't tell you. Why? Because you'll throw us out. Us. The word hung like a gunshot. Elijah pushed past her. She grabbed his arm with both hands. No, please, I'll do anything. Let go. I'll be a wife to you right now. Whatever you want, just don't. Elijah grabbed her wrists. Gentle but firm, moved her aside. I don't want your body. I want truth. He kicked the door open. Dark room, pale light through boarded windows. Bed untouched. Mattress dragged to the floor, surrounded by blankets. The carpet bag, open, empty. He searched. Under the bed, nothing. Wardrobe, nothing. Then he heard it. A sneeze, tiny, muffled, behind the pile of blankets in the corner. Elijah moved them aside. 2 eyes stared up at him. A child, boy, 3 years old, tangled blonde hair, terrified, clutching breadcrumbs, shaking but silent, trained to be silent. The world tilted. Elijah staggered back, grabbed the doorframe. He couldn't breathe. All he saw was Daniel, his son. Same blonde hair, same frightened eyes, reaching from the ashes. A child, he whispered, voice cracking. You brought a child. Clara rushed in, scooping the boy up. He buried his face in her neck, not crying, not making the sound. His name is Thomas. He's my son. Her voice broke. And they want to kill him. Get out! The roar shook the walls. The boy flinched deeper into Clara's arms. Please, it's 20 below. We'll die out there. You lied to me. I had no choice. There's always a choice, Elijah was shouting, something he never did. You brought a child. You made me look at... He couldn't finish. You made me look at a child who reminds me of everything I lost. Clara saw it. You had a child, she said softly. Didn't you? Elijah's hands were shaking. Hadn't shaken like this since the night he dug through ashes with bare fingers. Don't. That's why you can't look at Thomas. I said don't. Silence. 3 people in a frozen room, wind howling outside. Then, Thomas coughed, wet, rattling. His small body convulsed. Clara's face went white. Oh God, he's burning up! The coughing worsened. Thomas's face turned red, purple, choking. He can't breathe! Elijah, he can't breathe! Something broke inside Elijah Crane, or maybe something healed. He crossed the room in 2 strides, took the boy, so light, God, so light, and sat on the bed, positioning him upright. Boiling water, now. Bare grease from the top shelf. Camphor, move! Clara ran. Elijah held the boy, rubbing circles on his back. Breathe, little man. Come on, fight. Thomas's tiny hands gripped Elijah's shirt. Don't quit on me. Elijah's voice cracked. Don't you dare quit. He worked through the night. Salve on Thomas's chest, steam tents with towels, holding him upright through coughing fits, rubbing, patting, waiting. The smell of camphor filled the room, sharp, medicinal. Clara fed the fire with trembling hands. Around midnight, the rattling eased. Thomas's breathing steadied. Fever broke in a rush of sweat. Elijah laid him down gently, covered him with every blanket. When he turned, Clara stood right behind him, tears streaming. "You saved him." "He saved himself. He's strong." "Like you." Elijah moved past her, grabbed the whiskey. "I'm not strong, just too stubborn to die." She walked up behind him, slowly. He didn't pull away. "You've held a child like that before." Elijah stared at the empty glass. "His name was Daniel. He was 4. "What happened?" The question hung there. He'd never answered it, not once in 10 years. But tonight, the words came. "Fire. Someone blocked the doors from outside while I was checking traps. My wife Margaret tried to get Daniel out. She went back for something, a blanket, a toy. I never found out." Clara's hand covered her mouth. "By the time I got there, the cabin was gone, ashes and smoke. I dug with my bare hands until my fingers bled." "Elijah." "Found them together. She was holding him, trying to protect him." He turned to face her, eyes dry but cracked wide open. "I built this cabin as far from people as I could. Figured if I was alone, I couldn't lose anyone else." Clara reached out. Fingers brushed his arm. "Who did it?" "Man named Marcus Ashford. Wanted our land for his railroad. I wouldn't sell." Clara's face went white. Elijah noticed. "You know that name." "Clara." His voice hardened. "Tell me why." She pulled back, wrapped arms around herself. "Because Marcus Ashford is why I'm running." Silence. "Tell me everything, now." Clara looked toward Thomas, sleeping. "I was a governess in the Ashford household." "Senator Ashford." "Senator?" 3 years now." Her voice went hollow. "He noticed me, said I was pretty, said I should be grateful." Elijah's fists curled. "When I got pregnant, his wife Victoria found out. Had me committed to an asylum. Said I was hysterical, delusional." "And Thomas?" "Victoria planned to take him at birth and dispose of him. A bastard would ruin Marcus's career." "How'd you escape?" "Fire at the asylum. I grabbed Thomas and ran. Been running 8 months." She looked up. "I used the matrimonial agency to disappear. Thought if I got far enough." "There's no far enough." Elijah's voice was flat. "Not from men like Ashford." "I know that now." Silence stretched between them. "The Pinkertons," Elijah said. "How close?" "Found the wagon trail 3 days ago, before the blizzard." "Then they're coming. Soon as this storm breaks." Clara nodded, her jaw tightened. "I can shoot. My father wasn't a minister. He was a drunk. I learned rifles at 12, keeping creditors off our porch." Elijah looked at her. Really looked. The trembling girl was gone. In her place, a mother who'd walked through fire to save her child. "All right." He reached for his rifle. "They want a fight? We'll give them one." Clara caught his arm. "There's something else." "What?" "The man leading the Pinkertons, their best tracker. He knows these mountains." "No one knows these mountains like I do." "He does." Clara's eyes were sad. "His name is Silas Crane." The blood drained from Elijah's face. "He's your brother." The rifle slipped from his fingers, clattered against the floor. Silas, his brother. The man who'd loved Margaret first, who'd left in rage when she chose Elijah. Working for Ashford, coming here. And suddenly, the blocked doors made sense. "Elijah?" He didn't answer, staring into the fire, seeing flames from 10 years ago. "Elijah, what is it?" "The night of the fire," he said slowly. Investigation said doors were blocked from inside. But I knew that was wrong. Someone blocked them from outside. Someone who knew our cabin, who knew which latches to jam. Clara understood. You think your brother? I think my brother's been working for Ashford longer than either of us knew. Elijah picked up the rifle, hands steady now. I think my brother killed my family. He walked to the window. And now he's coming here, to finish the job. Behind him, Thomas coughed in his sleep. Elijah made a decision. He'd failed to save one family, spent 10 years hiding from that failure. But now, another woman, another child, another chance. This time would be different. Clara. Yes? Storm's breaking. 6 hours before they make it up the mountain. He turned. Listen to everything I say. She straightened. Then let's get ready. Because when my brother comes knocking... Elijah loaded the rifle. I intend to answer. 6 hours. Elijah moved through the cabin like a man possessed. He pulled rifles from hidden compartments, checked ammunition, counted bullets. 47 rounds, 3 rifles, 1 shotgun, 2 pistols. Against Pinkertons, against Silas, against the devil himself. Clara stood by the bedroom door, watching him. What do you need me to do? You said you can shoot. I can. Elijah tossed her the shotgun. She caught it one-handed, checked the breech, snapped it shut. He raised an eyebrow. My father owed money to dangerous people, Clara said. I learned fast. Good. You'll need it. He moved to the window, peering through the crack in the boards. The blizzard was dying, visibility improving. By noon, the trail would be passable. How many will come? Clara asked. Silas won't travel heavy. 3, maybe 4 men. He likes to work small, quiet. And your brother? What's he like? Elijah was silent for a long moment. He's like me, same training, same instincts. He turned to face her. But where I buried my rage, Silas fed his. He's been angry since the day he was born. Angry at our father for the beatings. Angry at our mother for dying. Angry at me for being the one Margaret chose. Did you know, back then, that he loved her? Everyone knew. Silas never hid anything. He'd show up at our cabin drunk, screaming that I'd stolen his life. Margaret would hide Daniel in the back room while I talked him down. Elijah's jaw tightened. Last time I saw him, he swore he'd make me pay. Said he'd take everything I had. He looked at Clara. 3 months later, my family was dead. Clara crossed the room, stood close enough to touch. We're not going to die here, Elijah. You don't know that. No, but I know you. I've watched you these 3 days. The way you move, the way you think. She put her hand on his arm. You're a survivor. So am I. And I didn't drag my son across 8 states to die in a cabin in Montana. Elijah looked at her hand, small against his weathered skin. You should hate me, he said quietly. I tried to throw you out, into the cold, with a sick child. You were scared. I don't get scared. Everyone gets scared, Elijah. The difference is what you do with it. Clara squeezed his arm. You could have let Thomas die. You didn't. You could have turned us over to the Pinkertons for the reward. You didn't. Whatever you think you are, I've seen who you really are. And who's that? A good man. Broken, maybe, but good. Before Elijah could respond, the horses in the barn whinnied. Not hungry. Warning. He grabbed his rifle. They're here, Get Thomas. Put him in the root cellar. Clara ran. Elijah moved to the window, peered through the scope. 3 riders, 400 yards down the trail, struggling through the drifts. Long dusters, wide-brimmed hats, and in front, a man who sat his horse like he owned the mountain. Silas. Even at this distance, Elijah recognized him. Same build, same posture. But there was something different now. Something colder. "Come on, brother," Elijah muttered. "Let's finish this." Clara returned, breathless. "Thomas is hidden. He knows to stay quiet." "Good. Take position by the east window. Don't fire until I do." She moved without hesitation. Elijah watched the riders approach. 200 yards now. Silas raised his hand. The group stopped. "Elijah!" The voice echoed off the canyon walls, familiar, twisted. "I know you're in there, brother. I can smell your fear from here." Elijah didn't respond. "We don't want trouble. Just send out the woman and the boy. Sterling's wife is paying good money for them. You can keep your cabin, keep your life. Just hand them over." Clara looked at Elijah. Her face was pale, but steady. "Sterling?" she whispered. "I thought it was Ashford." Same man, different name in different territories. Elijah's voice was grim. "He's been doing this for years, buying land, burning out anyone who won't sell, using different identities to cover his tracks. He's a monster." "He's worse than that. He's a monster with money and power." Silas's voice rang out again. "You've got 1 minute, Elijah. Then we come in, and you know what happens then." Elijah steadied his rifle, sighted the ground 3 feet in front of Silas's horse. Fired. The crack shattered the morning silence. Snow exploded near the horse's hooves. The animal reared, and Silas fought to control it. "That's your answer," Elijah shouted. "Come any closer, and the next one goes through your chest." Silence. Then, laughter, cold and sharp. Same old Elijah, always thinking you can fight your way out. Silas's voice turned hard. "Fine, have it your way. Boys, light them up." The 2 riders behind Silas drew weapons, started firing at the cabin. Bullets thudded into logs, glass shattered, splinters flew. Elijah ducked below the window. "Clara, now!" The shotgun roared from the east window. The blast tore through the porch railing, forcing one rider to veer off course. Elijah popped up, sighted, fired. The bullet caught a rider's hat, spinning it off his head. A warning shot, close enough to feel. "Fall back!" Silas commanded. The riders retreated 50 yards, regrouped behind a cluster of boulders. "Elijah," Clara's voice was tight. "Movement on the left." He swung around. One of the riders had dismounted, running toward the barn with a torch. "He's going to burn the horses!" Elijah adjusted his aim. The man was using the animals as cover, staying low. Elijah breathed out, squeezed. The bullet struck the torch, shattering the wood. Sparks flew into the man's face. He screamed, dropping into the snow, rolling to extinguish his burning coat. "Good shot," Clara said. "Lucky shot." "I don't believe in luck." Elijah almost smiled. Almost. Then he saw the 3rd man, the one who had disappeared during the firefight. "Clara, where's the 3rd? Crash! The back door exploded inward. A man filled the doorframe. Big, bearded, gun drawn. He fired at Elijah, missed by inches. Elijah dove behind the table, fired back. The bullet caught the doorframe as the man ducked. "Where's the boy?" the man roared, advancing into the cabin. "Tell me, or I'll burn this place with all of you in it." Clara appeared behind him, silent as a ghost. She swung the shotgun like a club. The stock connected with the back of his head. He staggered, turned, grabbed her throat with one massive hand. "Little bird wants to fight?" Clara couldn't breathe. Her feet left the ground. "Let her go." Elijah stood 10 feet away, rifle aimed at the man's head. "Shoot me and I snap her neck before I fall." "Then we both lose." "I don't lose," the man smiled. "Now tell me where the boy is." Clara's face was turning purple. Her hands clawed at his wrist. Elijah's mind raced. 10 feet, too far to rush him. The angle was wrong for a clean shot. If he fired and missed... "The boy's dead," the man blinked. "What?" "Fever took him last night. You're too late." "Liar." "Check the root cellar. You'll find a small body wrapped in blankets." The man's eyes flickered toward the floor, just for a second. Clara moved. She drove her knee into his groin, hard. His grip loosened. She dropped. Elijah fired. The bullet caught the man's shoulder, spinning him around. He crashed into the wall, clutching the wound. Clara scrambled away, gasping for air. Elijah advanced, kicked the man's gun across the room. "Who sent you? Ashford? Sterling? What's he calling himself now?" The man laughed through bloody teeth. "You think this ends here? There's 100 more where we came from. The senator wants that boy dead. And what Sterling wants, Sterling gets." Elijah pressed the rifle barrel against the man's forehead. Not this time. He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. The man's eyes widened with hope. Elijah reversed the rifle, swung the stock into the man's temple. He collapsed, unconscious. "Elijah!" Clara's voice was hoarse. She was rubbing her throat, red marks already forming. "I'm fine," she said before he could ask. "Check outside." He moved to the window. The 2 remaining riders were retreating down the trail. One was slumped in his saddle. Clara's shotgun blast must have caught some buckshot. But Silas wasn't with them. "Where is he?" Elijah scanned the tree line. "Where's my brother?" A voice came from directly behind him. "Right here." Elijah spun. Silas stood in the doorway to Clara's bedroom. He'd come through the back, through the window Elijah had boarded up that morning. He had Thomas. The boy was tucked under Silas's arm like a sack of grain. Silent, terrified, a knife pressed against his small throat. "Drop the rifle, brother." Clara screamed. "No, please, he's just a child." "He's a payday." Silas's eyes never left Elijah. "Drop it. Now." Elijah let the rifle fall. "Good. Now kick it away." He did. "Clara, you too. Drop the shotgun." She hesitated. "Drop it, or I cut him. Your choice." The shotgun clattered to the floor. Silas smiled. That same smile Elijah remembered from childhood. The one that meant someone was about to get hurt. 10 years, Silas said, moving further into the room. 10 years I've been waiting for this. To see you again. To see that look on your face. Let the boy go, Silas. This is between us. Oh, it is. But the boy's worth $10,000. And the woman's worth $5,000. Silas shrugged. Sorry, brother. Business is business. Like the fire was business? Silas's smile flickered. The fire that killed Margaret. Killed Daniel. Elijah took a step forward. Was that business too? Don't. You blocked the doors. I know you did. You don't know anything. I know you, Silas. I know how you think. I know you blame me for taking Margaret. I know you wanted me to suffer. She was supposed to run, Silas's voice cracked. First sign of emotion. The back window was unlatched. She was supposed to get out. But she didn't. She went back for the boy. I didn't know she'd go back. You didn't care. I loved her, Silas was screaming now. The knife trembled against Thomas's throat. I loved her more than you ever could, and she chose you. She chose you. Thomas whimpered, the first sound he'd made. Clara moved without thinking, stepped between Silas and Elijah. Take me instead. Both brothers stared at her. What? Silas said. Take me. Let the boy go. I'm worth 5,000, you said, and I won't fight. I'll come quietly. Clara, no, Elijah started. He's 3 years old, Clara said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. He's just a baby. Whatever sins his father committed, Thomas is innocent. Let him go. Take me instead. Silas studied her. Something shifted in his eyes. You'd die for this child? I'd do anything for this child. Even knowing Ashford will kill you slowly? That his wife wants you to suffer? Even knowing that. Silence stretched through the cabin. Outside the wind howled. Then Silas laughed, short and bitter. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the stupidest. Maybe both. Silas looked at Elijah. You found a good one, brother. Better than you deserve. Let them go, Silas. Please. I'm begging you. You? Begging? Silas shook his head. Never thought I'd see the day. There's been enough death, enough pain. Let them go and take me instead. That's what you want, isn't it? To make me pay? I want you to suffer. Then let me watch them walk away. Let me know they're safe. Elijah's voice broke. And then you can do whatever you want to me. Kill me slow. Make it hurt. I won't fight. Silas was quiet for a long moment. You really care about them. A woman you've known 3 days. A boy who isn't yours. He could be. They could be my family, if you let them. You already had a family. I took them from you. I know. And you'd still die for these strangers? Elijah met his brother's eyes. They're not strangers anymore. Something passed between them. Old memories, old wounds. 2 brothers who had loved the same woman, destroyed by that love in different ways. Silas's grip on Thomas loosened, just slightly. The back trail, he said quietly. Through the devil's throat. Leads to Idaho territory. I was going to use it to cut you off. Elijah's heart pounded. If someone were to take that trail tonight, they'd be out of Montana by morning, out of Sterling's reach. Silas. Don't. His brother's face hardened again. This doesn't make us even. Nothing makes us even. But I'm tired, Elijah. Tired of hunting. Tired of hating. He set Thomas down. The boy ran to Clara. She swept him into her arms, sobbing. Silas backed toward the door. The knife disappeared into his coat. You've got maybe 4 hours before Sterling sends more men. Use them. Why? Elijah asked. Why are you doing this? Silas paused at the threshold. Because she reminded me of her. Margaret. The way she stood up for the boy. Margaret would have done the same thing. He looked at Clara. Take care of him. Both of him. Then he was gone, swallowed by the snow and the darkness. Elijah stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Clara's voice brought him back. Elijah, we need to go. He turned. She was already gathering supplies, moving with purpose. The devil's throat, she said. How dangerous is it? Very, but passable if you know the way. Do you know the way? Yes. She handed him his rifle. Their fingers touched. "Then let's move." They packed in 20 minutes. Elijah took weapons, ammunition, food for 3 days. Clara bundled Thomas in every piece of warm clothing she could find. At the door, Elijah paused, looked back at the cabin he'd built with his own hands, the fortress where he'd hidden from the world for 10 years. "Elijah?" Clara's voice was soft. "We have to go." "I know." He closed the door without looking back. They disappeared into the mountain as the first light of dawn touched the peaks. The cold hit them like a wall. Elijah broke trail through waist-deep snow, his body a human plow. Every step was a battle. Behind him, Clara followed in his footsteps, Thomas strapped to her chest, buried in furs. They didn't speak. Couldn't. The wind stole every word. 2 hours up, then 3. The air grew thin. Breathing became work. Elijah stopped at a rocky outcrop, checking behind them. No movement on the trail. No torches. Not yet. "How are you holding up?" he asked. Clara's face was red from cold. Ice crystals clung to her eyelashes, but her voice was steady. "I'm fine. Keep moving." "We can rest for a minute." "No, you said 4 hours. How long has it been?" 3. "Then we keep moving." Elijah almost smiled. This woman. 3 days ago, she couldn't meet his eyes. Now she was ordering him around on his own mountain. He liked it. They pushed on. The trail narrowed, winding between massive boulders and sheer drops. One wrong step meant a 1,000-foot fall. "Stay close to the wall," Elijah said. "Don't look down." "I'm not planning to." Thomas stirred against Clara's chest, whimpered. "Shh, baby, Mama's here. We're almost safe." The boy settled, still that unnatural silence. Still trained to be quiet. Elijah wondered what that child had seen, what he'd been through in his short life. Running, hiding, never staying anywhere long enough to feel safe. No child should live like that. No child should have to. They reached the Devil's Throat as the sun touched the peaks. The entrance was a crack in the mountain face, barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through. "This is it?" Clara asked. "This is it. There's a ventilation shaft inside. Old mining operation. Leads down into the tunnels. Comes out 5 miles north, past Sterling's Reach." "How far down?" 500 feet. Clara looked at the narrow opening, then at Thomas. "Is there another way?" "Not one we can reach in time." She took a deep breath, nodded. "Then we go down." Elijah went first. The shaft was pitch black, the air stale and cold. He felt along the wall until his hand found metal. A ladder, rusted but solid. "Clara, give me Thomas." She hesitated. "I'll strap him to my chest. You need both hands for the ladder." Still, she hesitated. "Clara, trust me." She handed the boy over. Elijah secured Thomas against his chest with rope, double-checking every knot. The boy's eyes were wide in the darkness, but he didn't cry, didn't make a sound. "Good boy," Elijah whispered. "You're doing so good." They started down. The darkness was absolute. Elijah counted rungs. 50. 100. His shoulders scraped against the narrow walls. Rust flaked under his fingers. Above him, Clara's boots scraped against metal. Her breathing was loud in the confined space. "You're doing great," Elijah called up. "Just keep your weight centered." "I know what I'm doing." "Of course you do." 200 rungs. 300. Then Clara's foot slipped. She screamed. The sound echoed forever down the shaft. Elijah braced himself against the walls, one arm wrapped around Thomas. He felt Clara's weight hit his shoulders, hurt her scrambling for purchase. I've got you! Find the rung! Her hands grabbed at his coat, his shoulders, finally found metal. I'm okay! I'm okay! But she wasn't. Elijah could hear it in her voice, the edge of panic. Clara, look at me. I can't see anything. Then listen to me. You're not going to fall. I won't let you fall. We're going to take this one rung at a time, together, okay? Silence. Then a shaky breath. Okay. They descended, slower now, Elijah calling out each rung before he moved to it, Clara following. One step at a time. 400 rungs. 450. Elijah's feet hit solid ground. We're down. He struck a match. The sudden light was blinding after the absolute darkness. They were in a tunnel. Low ceiling. Rotting timber supports. Water dripping somewhere in the distance. Clara stumbled off the last rung. Her legs buckled. Elijah caught her. Easy, I've got you. She leaned against him, shaking. I hate the dark, she whispered. Ever since the asylum. They used to lock us in closets for punishment. Hours in the dark. No light, no sound. Elijah held her, said nothing. Sometimes words weren't enough. Thomas squirmed between them, reached up and touched Clara's face. Mama? First word he'd spoken since they left the cabin. Clara laughed through tears. I'm here, baby. Mama's here. The match burned Elijah's fingers. He dropped it, lit another. We need to keep moving. The air flows north. We follow the draft. They walked for what felt like hours. The tunnel branched and twisted, but Elijah followed the movement of the flame, always heading toward fresh air. The silence was oppressive. Only their footsteps, their breathing, the occasional drip of water. Then Thomas spoke again. Papa? Elijah stopped walking. Clara's breath caught. Thomas, that's not, she started. Papa! The boy was looking directly at Elijah, reaching for him with small hands. Elijah's chest tightened. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Elijah, Clara's voice was soft. You don't have to. He reached down, took Thomas from Clara, held him against his shoulder. The boy's arms wrapped around his neck. Papa, Thomas said again. Content. Safe. Elijah closed his eyes. For just a moment, he let himself feel it. The weight of a child against his chest. The trust in that small embrace. Daniel used to hold him like this, after nightmares, after storms. Little arms around his neck, face buried against his shoulder. Elijah? Clara's hand found his in the darkness. Are you okay? Yeah. His voice was rough. Yeah, I'm okay. He started walking again. Thomas stayed in his arms. They emerged from the tunnel into gray morning light. Fresh air filled their lungs. Snow stretched before them, pristine and untouched. Idaho territory. They'd made it. Clara fell to her knees, sobbing with relief. Elijah stood beside her, Thomas still clinging to his neck. He looked back at the dark mouth of the tunnel, then forward at the valley below. We need to keep moving. There's a logging settlement about 10 miles north. We can get supplies there, hire a wagon. Where will we go? Oregon. I know people there. Good people. They'll help us disappear. Clara looked up at him, snow in her hair, tears on her cheeks. And then what? Elijah helped her stand, brushed the snow from her dress. And then we build a new life, if you'll have me. Clara stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying I came up this mountain to hide from the world, to die alone. He cupped her face in his rough hands. But then you showed up with your lies and your secrets and your beautiful, silent boy. And you made me feel something I thought I'd buried forever. Elijah, I'm not good with words, Clara. Never have been. But I know this. I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. Both of you." She rose on her toes, kissed him. The kiss was cold at first, chapped lips and frozen breath. But then it warmed, deepened, became something more. Thomas giggled between them. They broke apart, laughing. "Papa kissed Mama," Thomas said. Clara looked at Elijah. "He's never said this many words, not in months. Maybe he finally feels safe." "Maybe he does." They walked north. The snow was easier here, packed by wind. They made good time. But Elijah kept checking behind them. Old habits die hard. "You think they'll follow?" Clara asked. "Eventually. Sterling has money. Money buys persistence." "And your brother?" Elijah was quiet for a moment. "I don't know what Silas will do. He let us go. But that doesn't mean he's changed. Men like him don't change." "Men like you do?" "I'm not like him." "No? You both survived the same childhood. You both loved the same woman. You both ended up alone on a mountain." Clara squeezed his hand. "The difference isn't who you are. It's who you chose to become." Elijah thought about that as they walked. Maybe she was right. Maybe the only thing separating him from Silas was choice. Elijah had chosen to build. Silas had chosen to destroy. But Silas had also chosen to let them go. In that moment, with Thomas in his arms and a knife at the boy's throat, Silas had made a different choice. Did that mean there was hope for him? Elijah didn't know. Wasn't sure he wanted to. They reached the logging settlement by afternoon, a collection of rough cabins and muddy streets, full of men who asked no questions. Elijah found a trader willing to exchange his father's gold watch for a wagon, 2 horses, and supplies for the journey. It hurt to let the watch go, last piece of his old life. But looking at Clara and Thomas, he knew it was worth it. They left that night, traveled under cover of darkness, put miles between themselves and Montana. On the 3rd day, they stopped by a frozen creek to rest the horses. Thomas was sleeping in the wagon. Clara sat beside Elijah on a fallen log, sharing dried meat and hard biscuits. "Tell me about her," Clara said. "Who?" "Margaret." Elijah stopped chewing. "Why?" "Because she shaped you. Because I want to understand." Clara looked at him. "Because I'll never be able to compete with a ghost, but I'd like to know who I'm sharing you with." Elijah stared at the frozen water for a long time. "She was kind," he said finally. "Kinder than me. Kinder than anyone I'd ever known. She saw good in people when there wasn't any good to see." "How did you meet?" "Her family's wagon broke down near our farm. Father sent me to help. I was 17. Took one look at her and forgot how to talk." Clara smiled. "Hard to imagine you speechless." "I was for about a week. Couldn't string 2 words together when she was around. Silas thought it was hilarious. He'd make fun of me every night." "But you won her." "I wrote her letters. Couldn't say what I felt, so I wrote it instead. Pages and pages about nothing and everything. She said my letters made her laugh, made her feel seen." "And Silas?" Elijah's face darkened. "Silas tried the direct approach. Flowers, gifts, grand gestures, but Margaret didn't want grand gestures. She wanted someone who understood her. She chose right. Did she? I got her killed, Clara. Her and Daniel. If she'd chosen Silas, maybe she'd be dead anyway. Maybe Silas would have hurt her himself. Maybe she would have been miserable." Clara took his hand. "We don't get to rewrite history. We only get to write what comes next." Elijah looked at her. This woman who had survived beatings and asylums and 8 months of running. who had hidden her child in a carpet bag and crossed a continent to keep him safe. How are you so wise? Suffering teaches wisdom, or it breaks you. She shrugged. I chose not to break. You're stronger than me. No, just stubborn. She leaned against his shoulder. We're going to make it, Elijah. Oregon. A new start. A real life. You believe that? I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point? He put his arm around her, held her close. Then I'll believe it too. They sat in silence, watching the sun set behind the mountains. Thomas woke crying. A nightmare. Clara went to him, and Elijah heard her singing softly, that same lullaby from the first night, the one that had made him suspicious. Now it made him feel something else entirely. They made camp for the night. Elijah built a fire while Clara settled Thomas in the wagon. When she returned, she sat close to him, sharing warmth. I never thanked you, she said. For what? For saving Thomas? That first night when he couldn't breathe. You didn't have to help him. Yes, I did. Why? Elijah stared into the flames. Because I couldn't save Daniel. Couldn't save Margaret. I've spent 10 years carrying that failure. And then there was Thomas, choking, dying right in front of me, and I thought, this is my chance, to save someone, to prove that all that pain meant something. It did mean something. Did it? You're here. You survived, and because you survived, you were there when Thomas needed you. Clara took his face in her hands. Don't you see? Everything you went through, all that suffering, it led you to this moment, to us. You believe in fate? I believe in choice. You chose to open your door to a stranger. You chose to save my son. You chose to fight for us. She kissed him softly. That's not fate. That's love. Elijah didn't have words, didn't need them. He kissed her back. That night they slept together in the wagon, not in the way of new lovers, but in the way of survivors, holding each other against the cold, against the fear, against everything they'd been through. Thomas slept between them, his small hand gripping Elijah's finger, and for the first time in 10 years, Elijah Crane slept without nightmares. They woke to gunshots. Elijah was on his feet before his eyes fully opened, rifle in hand, heart pounding. Stay down, he hissed to Clara. He crept to the edge of the wagon, peered out. Torches, moving through the trees. At least 6 men. And a voice he recognized. I know you're there, Crane. My men have you surrounded. Give up the woman and the boy, and I'll let you walk away. Not Silas. Someone worse. Clara's face went white. That voice. I know that voice. Elijah's blood ran cold. It's Sterling. The man himself had come. Sterling. The name hit Elijah like a bullet to the chest. The man who burned his family. The man who destroyed everything. Here. Now. In the flesh. How? Clara whispered. How did he find us? Doesn't matter. Get Thomas. Stay behind me. Clara grabbed the boy, pulling him against her chest. Thomas was awake now, eyes wide, but silent. Always silent. Elijah counted the torches. 6. No, 7. Moving through the trees in a tightening circle. 7 men, 1 rifle, 20 rounds. Bad odds. Crane! Sterling's voice again, closer now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I have no quarrel with you. Just give me what's mine. What's mine? Like Clara was property. Like Thomas was a thing to be discarded. Elijah's grip tightened on the rifle. Clara, There's a ravine 50 yards behind us. Steep, but passable. When I start shooting, you run." "No!" "Clara, I said no." Her voice was steel. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to protect Thomas." "And who protects you?" "I don't need—" "Everyone needs someone, Elijah. That's what you taught me." A torch broke through the tree line. A man appeared. Then another. Then Sterling himself. Elijah had never seen him up close. The newspapers described him as distinguished, handsome, a self-made man who rose from nothing to become one of the most powerful men in the territory. What Elijah saw was a monster wearing human skin. Sterling was tall. Silver hair swept back from a face that might have been carved from marble. Cold eyes that calculated everything and felt nothing. He wore a black coat over riding clothes, as if this were a fox hunt rather than a murder. "Ah, there you are," Sterling smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "The Mountain Man. I've heard stories about you. Silas spoke highly of your skills." "Where's my brother?" "Silas," Sterling laughed. "He's being dealt with. Betrayal has consequences, you understand. I don't tolerate disloyalty." Elijah's stomach dropped. Whatever Silas had done, whatever he'd been, he was still blood. "You killed him?" "Not yet, but I will. After I've finished here." Sterling's gaze shifted to Clara. "Hello, my dear. You've caused quite a bit of trouble." Clara stepped forward. Elijah tried to pull her back. She shook him off. "I'm not your dear. I was never your dear. I was a girl you forced yourself on. A girl you tried to bury in an asylum." "Forced?" Sterling looked genuinely amused. "Is that the story you've told yourself? My darling, you were willing. Eager, even. Don't rewrite history to make yourself a victim." "I was 17. Old enough to know what you were doing. I was a servant in your house. You had all the power. I had none. And yet here you are, thousands of miles from home, with my son." Sterling's smile faded. "Speaking of which, where is the boy?" Clara's arms tightened around Thomas. "You're not touching him. He's mine." "He's mine!" Clara screamed. "I carried him. I birthed him. I've kept him alive for 3 years while your wife sent killers after us. He's never been yours. He's never known your name." Sterling was quiet for a moment. "Victoria can be overzealous, but you must understand our position. A bastard child would destroy my political career. The presidency requires an unblemished reputation." "So you'd kill your own son for votes?" "I'd kill anyone for power." Sterling said it simply, matter-of-factly. "That's the difference between people like me and people like you. I understand what it takes to build an empire. You understand only survival." Elijah had heard enough. "You built your empire on murder, on bodies, on burning families in their homes." Sterling turned to him. Something flickered in those cold eyes. Recognition. "Ah, the farm in Montana. That was you?" "That was my wife, my son. Unfortunate, but necessary. That land was worth—" "I don't care what it was worth." "No, I suppose you don't," Sterling sighed. "This is the problem with men like you. You think in small terms. Family, honor, love. You can't see the bigger picture. I see you just fine. Do you? Do you see the railroads I've built? The towns I've created? The thousands of jobs? The hundreds of businesses?" Sterling spread his arms wide. "I've done more good for this territory than 100 honest men. The price, a few unfortunate deaths, is negligible in comparison. Tell that to Margaret. Tell that to Daniel." "I would, if I could." Sterling smiled again. "But they're dead. And soon, You will be too." He raised his hand. The men around him lifted their weapons. "Wait," Elijah stepped forward. "You want the boy? Take me instead." "Elijah, no!" Clara grabbed his arm. "I'm the one who killed your Pinkertons. I'm the one who's been protecting them. Let Clara and Thomas go, and you can do whatever you want to me." Sterling tilted his head, curious. "Why would you die for them? The woman lied to you, brought trouble to your door. The boy isn't even yours." "He is now." The words came out before Elijah could stop them, but as soon as he said them, he knew they were true. Thomas was his. Clara was his. This broken, beautiful family that had stumbled into his life, they were his, and he would die for them. Sterling studied him for a long moment. "Fascinating. You actually love them." "I do." "Even knowing what she is? A liar? A thief? A woman who tricked you into giving her shelter?" "She's the bravest person I've ever known. She's a whore who seduced me and then ran when there were consequences." Clara moved before anyone could stop her. She slapped Sterling across the face, hard enough to split his lip. The sound echoed through the frozen trees. Sterling touched his mouth, looked at the blood on his fingers. "You shouldn't have done that." He backhanded her. Clara went down hard, crying out as she hit the frozen ground. Thomas tumbled from her arms. Elijah lunged. He didn't think, didn't plan, just moved. His fist connected with Sterling's jaw. The older man staggered back. Elijah hit him again, and again. Then the men were on him, fists and boots, coming from everywhere at once. Elijah fought back, broke one man's nose, felt another's teeth give way under his knuckles. But there were too many. They drove him to his knees, held him there. Sterling straightened his coat, wiped blood from his chin. "Hold him. Make him watch." Two men grabbed Clara, dragged her to her feet. "No!" Elijah struggled against the hands holding him. "Let her go. Your fight is with me." "My fight is with anyone who takes what's mine." Sterling walked to where Thomas lay crying in the snow. He picked the boy up by the back of his shirt like a puppy. "Don't touch him!" Clara screamed. "He has my eyes." Sterling studied the boy's face. "Unfortunate. He'll have to go. Victoria won't rest until she knows he's dead." "He's your son!" "He's a mistake, one I intend to correct." Sterling drew a pistol from his coat, pressed it against Thomas's head. "No!" Clara's scream tore through the night. Elijah fought like a wild animal, broke free from one man, then another, but they tackled him again, drove him face first into the snow. "Watch, mountain man." Sterling's voice was calm. "Watch what happens to people who steal from me." Elijah's vision blurred. His heart was being ripped from his chest. "Not again. Please, God, not again." Then, a sound. A rifle shot. From the darkness, one of the men holding Clara dropped, dead before he hit the ground. Everyone froze. Another shot. Another man fell. Sterling spun, trying to find the shooter. "Who's there? Show yourself!" A figure emerged from the trees. Tall, familiar. Silas. He looked like death. Bruises covered his face. Blood soaked his shirt. He walked with a limp, favoring his left leg, but his rifle was steady. "Hello, Marcus." Sterling's face went pale. "You're supposed to be dead?" "Almost. Your men aren't as thorough as you think." Silas limped closer. His eyes never left Sterling. "Let the boy go." "Silas, be reasonable. We can discuss." "I said, let him go." Sterling hesitated, then slowly set Thomas down. The boy ran to Clara, who who scooped him up and backed away. "Now release my brother." The men holding Elijah looked at Sterling, then at Silas, then let go. Elijah stumbled to his feet, grabbed his rifle from where it had fallen. The two brothers stood side by side, facing Sterling and his remaining men. "This is foolish," Sterling said. "There are still 4 of us. You can't—" "We can." Elijah's voice was cold. "And we will." Sterling looked at them, at Clara holding Thomas, at the bodies of his fallen men. Something shifted in his eyes. The calculation. The cold assessment of a man who always knew when to cut his losses. "Fine." He raised his hands. "You win. Take the woman, take the boy. I'll call off my men. You think we're stupid?" Silas spat. "You think we believe you'll just let this go? I'm a practical man. This has become too expensive, too visible. There will be other opportunities." "Other opportunities to kill a child?" "Other opportunities to protect my interests." Sterling lowered his hands. "We're done here. I have no desire to die on this frozen road." He started to turn away. "No." Elijah's voice stopped him. "We're not done." Sterling turned back slowly. "Excuse me?" "You burned my family. You murdered my wife and son. You've spent the last 10 years destroying lives to build your empire." Elijah raised his rifle. "You think I'm going to let you walk away? If you kill me, you'll hang. I'm a senator, a respected— You're a murderer. I'm a powerful man with powerful friends. If I die here, you'll be hunted for the rest of your life. I'm already hunted." Elijah cocked the rifle. Sterling's composure cracked, just for a second. "Think about what you're doing. Think about the woman, the boy. Do you want them to spend their lives running? They're already running, because of you. I can fix that. I can make this all go away. Give you money, new identities, a fresh start somewhere Sterling's name has never been spoken. Your money is blood money. All money is blood money. That's how the world works." Elijah's finger tightened on the trigger. "Elijah?" Clara's voice, soft but firm. He didn't lower the rifle. "Elijah, look at me." He turned his head, just slightly. Clara stood there, Thomas in her arms. The boy was watching him with those big, dark eyes. "If you do this, you become him. A killer. A man who solves problems with murder. He deserves to die." "Maybe he does, but Thomas doesn't deserve to watch it happen." She took a step closer. "You're not this man, Elijah. You're the man who saved my son, who held him through the fever, who carried him through the darkness. He killed Margaret. He killed Daniel." "I know. And it's not fair. None of this is fair." Tears streamed down her face. "But if you pull that trigger, you lose yourself. And I can't lose you. Not after everything we've been through." Elijah's hands were shaking. He looked at Sterling, at the man who had destroyed everything. He looked at Clara, at the woman who had given him everything back. He looked at Thomas, at the boy calling him Papa. The rifle lowered. Sterling exhaled. "A wise Silas fired. The bullet caught Sterling in the shoulder. He screamed, spinning, falling to the ground. "That's for Margaret," Silas said. He fired again. The leg. "That's for Daniel." Sterling was screaming now, writhing in the snow. Silas walked closer, stood over him. "And this is for my brother, for the 10 years you stole from him." He raised the rifle. "Silas, don't!" Elijah's voice. Silas paused, looked at his brother. He deserves to die. He deserves to suffer. Elijah walked to stand beside him. "Death is too easy. Let him live. Let him crawl back to his wife and explain how he lost. Let him watch his political career collapse when people learn what he's done. People won't believe. They will. Clara stepped forward. Because I have proof. Letters, documents, hidden in a safe place before I ran. Everything he did, everyone he paid off, every family he destroyed. I've been holding on to it as insurance. Sterling's face went gray. You're lying, am I? The letter you wrote to Victoria about disposing of the problem. The receipts for the men you hired to burn the Crane farm. The list of bribes paid to sheriffs and judges across 3 territories. How did you... I was your governess, Marcus. I had access to your study, your files, your secrets. Clara's voice was ice. I copied everything before I ran. It's sitting in a lawyer's office in Boston, with instructions to release it to every newspaper in the country, if anything happens to me or my son. Sterling closed his eyes. So here's what's going to happen. Clara crouched beside him. You're going to call off your men. All of them. Forever. You're going to forget you ever had a son. You're going to live the rest of your miserable life knowing that I won. That the whore you tried to destroy brought you to your knees. Victoria will do what you tell her. Or I release the documents and you both hang. Sterling was silent. Do we have an agreement? He nodded, once. Clara stood. Then we're done here. She walked to Elijah, took his hand. Let's go home. Elijah looked at Silas. His brother stood there, rifle still aimed at Sterling. Something warred behind his eyes. Silas. I should kill him. You should come with us. Silas blinked. What? Oregon. Fresh start. New life. Elijah extended his hand. We're brothers, Silas. Whatever happened between us, we're still blood. I killed your family. No, he did. Elijah pointed at Sterling. You were his weapon. But weapons don't make choices. Men do. And tonight, you made the right one. Silas stared at his brother's hand. You'd forgive me? After everything? I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can give you a chance. That's more than either of us had yesterday. A long moment passed. Then Silas lowered his rifle, took Elijah's hand. Okay, brother. Let's go home. They left Sterling bleeding in the snow. His remaining men fled into the darkness, wanting no part of what came next. The 4 of them walked toward the wagon. 2 brothers who had been enemies. A woman who had been a victim. A boy who had been a target. All of them survivors. All of them family. Thomas reached out from Clara's arms, touched Silas's face. Uncle? Silas looked at the boy. Something cracked in his expression. Yeah, little man. Uncle. Thomas smiled. It was the first real smile Elijah had seen on the boy's face. They climbed into the wagon. Elijah took the reins. Clara sat beside him, Thomas on her lap. Silas stretched out in the back, exhausted. The horses started moving, and they didn't look back. They traveled for 9 days. 9 days of frozen roads and sleepless nights. 9 days of watching the horizon for riders who never came. 9 days of slowly learning to breathe again. Silas's wounds healed slowly. Clara changed his bandages every morning, her hands gentle despite everything he'd done. He never thanked her, never apologized. But Elijah saw him watching her when she wasn't looking, saw the confusion in his brother's eyes. How do you repay someone for kindness you don't deserve? Thomas was the one who broke through. On the 5th day, the boy crawled into the back of the wagon where Silas lay resting. He sat down beside him and stared. Silas opened one eye. "What do you want, kid?" Thomas held up a wooden horse, one Elijah had carved during a rest stop. Crude, but recognizable. "Play?" "I don't play." "Play!" Thomas pushed the horse against Silas's hand, insistent. Silas looked at Elijah, who was driving, then at Clara, who was pretending not to watch. He sighed. "Fine, one game." The game lasted 3 hours. By the end, Silas was making galloping sounds with his mouth, while Thomas giggled uncontrollably. Clara had tears in her eyes. Elijah just smiled and kept driving. Something was healing. Slowly. Painfully. But healing nonetheless. On the 7th day, they crossed into Oregon territory. Elijah pulled the wagon to a stop at the border marker. Just a wooden post with faded letters. But it meant something. "We made it," Clara whispered. "Not yet. Few more days to the valley." "But we crossed. We're out of his reach." Elijah looked at her, at the hope in her eyes. The first real hope he'd seen since she stepped off that train. "Yeah, we're out." Clara leaned against his shoulder. Thomas was asleep in her lap. Behind them, Silas snored softly. For a moment, everything was quiet. Everything was peace. Then Elijah flicked the reins, and they kept moving. The valley appeared on the 9th day. Green, even in winter. A river cutting through the center. Mountains rising on all sides like protective walls. "It's beautiful," Clara breathed. "It's home." Elijah guided the wagon down the winding road toward a small settlement. A general store. A blacksmith. A church with a white steeple. People looked up as they passed, curious but not hostile. This was a place where strangers were common, where pasts were left unspoken. Elijah stopped the wagon in front of the general store. "Wait here." He went inside, came back 20 minutes later with a deed in his hand. "What's that?" Clara asked. 40 acres, about 5 miles up the valley. Previous owner died last winter. No family to claim it." "You bought land?" "I bought our future." Clara stared at him, then at the deed, then at the mountains surrounding them. "Our future," she repeated. "If you'll have it. If you'll have me." She kissed him, right there in front of the general store, in front of God and everyone. Thomas clapped. "Mama, kiss Papa!" Even Silas laughed. They reached the property at sunset. A cabin set at the edge of a meadow, small but solid. Needed work. The roof sagged, the porch leaned, but the bones were good. Elijah helped Clara down from the wagon. Thomas squirmed in her arms, wanting to explore. "It's not much," Elijah said, "but I can fix it up, make it proper. By spring—" Clara put her finger on his lips. "It's perfect." "You haven't even seen inside." "I don't need to. It's ours. That makes it perfect." Silas climbed down from the wagon, wincing as his feet hit the ground. "Needs a new roof." "I know." "Porch is rotted." "I know." "Chimney looks crooked." "Silas." "What?" "Shut up and help me unload the wagon." For the first time in 15 years, Silas smiled at his brother. "Yes, sir, mountain man." They worked until dark. Elijah fixed the stove, while Silas patched the worst of the roof leaks. Clara cleaned years of dust from every surface. Thomas ran in circles, delighted by the space, by the freedom, by the simple joy of being a child. That night they ate a simple meal of beans and cornbread, sat around the stove, sharing warmth and silence. "So what happens now?" Silas asked. "Now we build," Elisha said. "Build what?" Everything. A life, a home, a family. Silas looked at his hands, scarred, calloused, stained with years of blood money. I don't know how to do that. Neither did I, until 3 weeks ago. What changed? Elijah looked at Clara, at Thomas, who had fallen asleep in her lap. They did. They changed everything. Silas was quiet for a long moment. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. Then why are you helping me? Because Margaret would have wanted me to. Silas flinched at the name. She loved you, Silas, even after you stopped coming around, even after you started drinking. She always said you were lost, not evil. She was wrong. Maybe, but she believed it, and I promised her, at her grave after the fire, that I'd try to be the man she thought I was. Elijah's voice cracked. Part of being that man is giving you a second chance, even if you don't deserve it. Even if I don't want to. And if I fail? If I go back to what I was? Then I'll bury you myself. But I don't think you will. Why not? Elijah nodded toward Thomas. Because that boy called you uncle, and I saw your face when he did. Whatever darkness is in you, Silas, there's light, too. Margaret saw it. I'm choosing to see it. Silas didn't respond, but his eyes were wet. He stood abruptly. I need air. He walked out into the night. Clara moved to Elijah's side. Will he be okay? I don't know. But he has to choose for himself. Same as I did. Same as you did. You really forgive him? I'm trying to. Every day, I'm trying. She took his hand. That's enough. That's all any of us can do. The winter passed slowly. Elijah rebuilt the cabin from the ground up. New roof, new porch, new windows. He worked from dawn until dark, driven by a purpose he hadn't felt in years. Silas helped, silently at first, barely speaking. But as the weeks passed, the brothers found their rhythm. Old habits resurfaced. The way they used to work their father's farm, anticipating each other's movements, covering each other's weaknesses. Clara turned the cabin into a home. Curtains in the windows, a garden planned for spring. She taught Thomas his letters at the kitchen table, patient and tireless. The nightmares faded. Not completely. Some wounds never fully heal, but enough. Elijah no longer woke screaming. Clara no longer slept with a knife under her pillow. They were becoming something new, something neither of them had expected. A family. On the first day of spring, Elijah woke before dawn. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Clara, pulled on his boots, walked outside. The meadow was covered in wildflowers, purple and yellow and white, spreading across the grass like a painter's dream. Elijah stood there, breathing it in. Footsteps behind him. Couldn't sleep either. Silas appeared at his side. 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered one to Elijah. Thanks. They stood in silence, watching the sun rise over the mountains. I've been thinking, Silas said. Dangerous habit. About leaving. Elijah's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. What? There's a logging camp about 50 miles north. They're hiring. Good pay, honest work. You don't have to go. Yes, I do. Silas looked at his brother. I love what we've built here, what you've built. But every time I look at Thomas, I remember what I almost cost you. Every time I look at Clara, I see Margaret. And it hurts, Elijah, more than I can say. Running won't fix that. No, but staying might break me. Silas took a deep breath. I need to prove, to myself, that I can be something other than what Sterling made me. I need to earn my way back." Elijah was quiet for a long moment. "When would you leave?" "End of the week, if you'll let me say goodbye to the boy." "He'll miss you." "I'll miss him too." More than I thought possible. Elijah turned to face his brother, really looked at him. The hollow-eyed killer from Montana was gone. In his place stood a man Elijah barely recognized, still broken, still scarred, but trying. That was all any of them could do. "You'll come back. Every Christmas. I swear it. And if you need us, I'll send word." Elijah extended his hand. Silas took it, then pulled his brother into a hug, the first they'd shared since childhood. "Thank you," Silas whispered, "for not giving up on me." "Thank Margaret. She's the one who believed in you." "I will. Every day." They stood there as the sun climbed higher, two brothers who had been torn apart by tragedy, finding their way back to each other. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever completely. But it was a start. Silas left 3 days later. Thomas cried. Clara cried. Even Elijah felt his eyes sting as the wagon disappeared down the valley road. "Will he be okay?" Thomas asked, his small hand gripping Elijah's finger. "I think so. Uncle Silas is tough." "Like you?" "Tougher than me." Thomas considered this. "Will he come back?" "He promised he would." "Then he will." Thomas nodded with absolute certainty. "Promises are important." Elijah crouched down to the boy's level. "Where'd you learn that?" "Mama told me. She said you promised to keep us safe. And you did." Clara appeared behind them, her hand resting on Elijah's shoulder. "What are we talking about?" "Promises," Thomas said. "Papa keeps his promises." Papa. The word still hit Elijah like a punch to the heart. Every single time. "That's right," Clara said. "Papa always keeps his promises." She met Elijah's eyes. Something passed between them. Understanding. Love. The quiet certainty of a future they'd built together. "Come on," Elijah said, standing. "Let's go home." He took Thomas's hand in one of his, Clara's in the other. They walked back to the cabin together. That summer, they got married. Nothing fancy. The preacher from town, a few neighbors they'd befriended, wildflowers in Clara's hair. Thomas served as ring bearer. He took the job very seriously. After the ceremony, they had dinner on the porch, watched the sun set over their valley, their land, their home. "Mrs. Crane," Elijah said, testing the name. "Mr. Crane?" Clara replied. "Sounds right." "Sounds perfect." Thomas was already asleep, exhausted from the excitement. Clara leaned against Elijah's shoulder, his arm around her waist. "I never thought I'd have this," she said. "Have what?" "Any of it. Peace, safety, love." She looked up at him. "You gave me all of it." "You gave me more. You gave me a reason to live again." "We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." They sat in silence as the stars emerged, one by one, filling the sky with light. "Elijah?" "Yeah?" "I'm pregnant." The world stopped. Elijah turned to look at her. Her eyes were shining, nervous, hopeful. "You're—" "About 2 months. I wanted to be sure before I told you." "Clara." "I know it's soon. I know we've only just started to—" He kissed her, deeply, completely, pouring everything he felt into that moment. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. "I'm going to be a father again," Elijah whispered. "You're already a father," to Thomas, "This is just more." "More," he laughed, a sound he barely recognized. "I'll take more." He pulled her close, held her like he'd never let go. "I love you, Clara Crane." "I love you, Elijah Crane." Above them, the stars blazed. The mountains stood silent watch. And somewhere in the darkness, a wolf howled, not in hunger, but in celebration. A year passed, then another. The cabin grew. A second bedroom, then a third. A barn for the horses, a coop for the chickens. Thomas grew too, tall for his age, strong. He helped Elijah with the farm, learning to work the land, to respect it. The baby came in autumn, a girl. They named her Margaret, after the woman Elijah had lost, the woman who had taught him what love meant. Silas came for Christmas, as promised. He looked different, healthier. There was peace in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He held his niece with trembling hands. "She's beautiful." "She's trouble," Elijah said. "Cries all night." "Worth it, though." Every second. The brothers sat on the porch, watching Thomas play in the snow. "You did it," Silas said. "Did what?" "Built a life, a real one, after everything that happened." Elijah looked at the cabin, at Clara in the window, rocking Margaret, at Thomas throwing snowballs at an imaginary enemy. "We built it," he said. "All of us. Together." "Even me?" "Especially you." Elijah clapped his brother's shoulder. "You could have let Sterling kill us, could have taken the money, but you didn't. You chose different." "I chose family." "That's right, you did." They sat in comfortable silence. Two brothers, once enemies, now something else. Not healed, not completely. Some wounds leave scars forever. But alive, present, trying. That night, after Silas had gone to bed and the children were sleeping, Elijah sat by the fire with Clara. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "About how we got here. About everything we survived." "Any regrets?" Elijah considered the question. The fire crackled. Wind whispered outside. His family slept peacefully under a roof he'd built with his own hands. Not one. Clara smiled. "Good answer." "Good life." "The best." She fell asleep against his shoulder. Elijah stayed awake a little longer, watching the flames dance. He thought about the man he used to be, the ghost haunting the mountain, the bitter, broken shell who'd ordered a bride because he needed a worker, not a wife. He thought about Clara stepping off that train, trembling, terrified, clutching a carpet bag that held everything she had left in the world. He thought about Thomas, about the first time the boy called him Papa, about the way that word had shattered every wall Elijah had built around his heart. They sent him a shy bride, but her first night's secret hadn't destroyed him. It had saved him. Elijah Crane leaned his head back against the chair, closed his eyes, let peace wash over him like a warm tide. Tomorrow there would be chores, fences to mend, animals to feed, a family to love. But tonight, there was only this moment, this grace. He had walked through fire and emerged on the other side, and what he found there was worth every scar. The mountain man who thought he wanted solitude discovered he needed family. The shy bride who thought she needed protection discovered she had strength. The broken brother who thought he was beyond redemption discovered mercy. 3 damaged souls found their way to each other, built something beautiful from the ashes of their pain. That is not coincidence. That is love. And love, when it is real, when it is true, does not just survive the fire. It becomes the fire. It burns away the darkness and leaves only light. Thanks for watching this story to the very end. If you felt something, if this tale touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment telling me what you thought of Elijah's choice to forgive his brother. Would you have done the same? I read every single comment, every single one. Until next time, remember this: no matter how dark your past, no matter how broken you feel, there is always a chance to start again. There is always hope. There is always dawn.